She was laughed at for her uniform. Then a general silently stood up for her. Stories. Have you ever wondered if the person you present to the world is truly who you are at your core? Do you ever question if the mask you wear for success, for protection, for societal expectation, truly reflects the values you hold dear? And more profoundly, have you ever stopped to consider how people would treat you if that mask, that carefully constructed identity, suddenly shattered? If I lost everything tomorrow, who do you think would still be by my side? Who would treat me with respect when I had nothing to offer, when my status, my wealth, my very identity was stripped away? I decided not to wait to find out. I became a phantom in my own empire, a cleaning lady in my own gala, and the truth I uncovered was both heartbreaking and profoundly affirming. My name is Evelyn Thorne, though most know me as Commander Thorne. For over 5 decades, I built an aerospace and defense conglomerate from the ground up, turning a small, audacious idea into a multi-billion-dollar enterprise. Now, at 72, I chair its philanthropic foundation, a legacy I've poured my heart and soul into. But a creeping unease had settled in my mind, a whisper of a doubt that grew louder with each passing month. I heard rumors of classism, of superficiality, of a growing chasm between those at the top and those at the bottom within my own company, the very institution I founded on principles of merit and respect. This wasn't just idle gossip, it was a deep, persistent ache in my gut, a feeling that something precious was being eroded from within. I needed to know if these whispers were true. I needed to see the true character of the people who now walked the halls of my company, the very people who would shape its future and the future of my foundation's beneficiaries. So, I devised a test, a silent experiment to separate the genuine from the grasping, the compassionate from the cruel. Little did they know, their fates, and the future of my life's work, were about to be decided by a cleaning lady. Why would a woman, a decorated retired admiral with an unassailable fortune and a reputation forged in steel, pretend to be an elderly cleaning staff member? The answer, I confess, lies in a deep-seated disillusionment. I had seen too many people change when wealth and power entered the equation. My early career in the military had taught me the value of true merit and the dangers of blind ambition. I'd witnessed firsthand the corrosive effect of privilege, the way it could blind individuals to the humanity of those they deemed beneath them. I remember one officer, brilliant in tactical strategy, but who treated every enlisted man as if they were disposable cogs, mere numbers on a spreadsheet. His eventual downfall, though unrelated to my actions, taught me a crucial lesson: character, above all else, defines a leader. My company, Thorne Aerospace and Defense, was more than just a business. It was a testament to innovation, integrity, and a commitment to service, born from my belief that technology could serve humanity, not just profit. We built satellites that connected remote villages, developed propulsion systems that made space travel safer, and engineered defense systems that protected the innocent. Our foundation, in particular, was designed to uplift, to empower the next generation of leaders and innovators, regardless of their background. We funded scholarships for bright, underprivileged students, mentored young engineers from diverse communities, and supported initiatives that brought technology to underserved populations. But if the very heart of my organization was becoming infected with snobbery and disdain, then our philanthropic efforts would be nothing more than a hollow gesture, a facade. They would be an insult to the very people we claimed to serve. I had been hearing things, whispers from junior staff members I still kept in contact with, vague reports from HR about interpersonal communication issues, even coded complaints from some of my oldest, most trusted advisors who, sensing my unease, were careful with their words but clear in their implications. They spoke of certain executives who treated support staff with open contempt, who valued appearance and connections over competence and character. I knew who the prime offenders likely were. Julian Albright, a senior vice president, was a man whose ambition was only matched by his arrogance. I'd watched him climb the ladder, always quick with a compliment for those above him, a scathing remark for those below. He cultivated an air of sycophantic charm upwards, while radiating condescension downwards. His personal assistant, a bright young woman named Sarah, had quietly transferred departments recently, citing a toxic work environment. This fueled my suspicions. Then there was Serafina Vance, our PR director, a woman obsessed with social climbing and presenting a flawless, if utterly vacuous, image. I had initially hired her for her sharp intellect and undeniable flair for public relations, but over the years, her focus seemed to have shifted entirely to her own personal brand and social standing. She was a master of superficiality, quick to dismiss anyone who didn't fit her narrow definition of important. I once saw her walk past a janitor struggling with a broken mop bucket, not even flinching as the dirty water splashed near her designer shoes. These were the people I needed to observe, to understand. I needed to see if their contempt for those without power was truly as pervasive as the rumors suggested. My plan was meticulously crafted. The annual company gala was approaching, a lavish affair where all levels of management, important clients, and beneficiaries of our foundation would gather. It was the perfect stage for my silent drama. I arranged for a temporary cleaning staff position under a new contractor, Clean Sweep Services, ensuring my name wouldn't raise any flags. I registered under the name Evie Thompson, choosing a common surname to further obscure my identity. I chose a uniform that was deliberately ill-fitting, a drab gray smock several sizes too large, trousers that bunched at the ankles, and practical, non-slip shoes that added to my awkward gait. I found a cheap, synthetic wig that made my famously silver hair seem duller and more disheveled, and acquired a pair of thick-rimmed glasses that obscured the sharp, knowing glint in my eyes, replacing it with an almost vacant stare. For weeks, I practiced a slight stoop, a slower gait, the careful, almost invisible movements of someone whose presence is rarely acknowledged. I spent hours observing cleaning staff at other venues, mimicking their posture, their way of pushing a heavy cart, their almost apologetic movements. I was no longer Commander Thorne, the formidable founder, the woman who commanded respect with a mere glance. I was Evie, the elderly cleaning lady, just another disposable cog in the vast machinery of the event. My heart was heavy with the possibility of what I might find, a deep dread that the company I had built, the values I had championed, had been corrupted. But my resolve was unwavering. I wanted to see if the values I had spent a lifetime championing were still alive, or if they had been suffocated by the very success I had created. I wanted to see who would see a person, and who would only see a uniform. And I would not interfere, I would only observe. The truth, I knew, would be revealed in the quiet moments, in the dismissive glances, in the words spoken when they believed no one of consequence was listening. So, how did my powerful executives treat the poor old cleaning lady? The gala was a dazzling spectacle, a testament to the very success that now felt so tainted. Crystal chandeliers, imported from Italy, dripped light onto polished marble floors, reflecting the glittering gowns and perfectly tailored suits of the attendees. The air hummed with the polite chatter of the privileged, a cacophony of carefully chosen words and false laughter, and the clinking of champagne glasses was a constant, almost mocking refrain. The scent of expensive perfumes mingled with the aroma of gourmet hors d'oeuvres, creating an intoxicating, yet oddly superficial, atmosphere. I moved through it all, a ghost in my own creation, pushing a heavy cart laden with cleaning supplies, mops, buckets, spray bottles, and industrial-strength wipes. My posture was carefully slouched, my eyes downcast, my movements deliberately slow and unassuming. The uniform, a drab gray smock and practical, non-slip shoes, felt like a costume, yet it was remarkably effective. People simply looked through me, their gazes sliding over me as if I were part of the furniture, an extension of the background. It was astonishing, the immediate invisibility that the uniform granted. It was as if my very personhood had been erased the moment I put it on. My first encounter with Julian Albright was exactly as I had anticipated, though no less jarring. I was carefully navigating a crowded section of the ballroom, trying to avoid a spill, my eyes trained on the path ahead, when I felt a sudden bump. A server, a young man who looked barely out of his teens, flustered and clearly overwhelmed, had accidentally nudged a tray, sending a cascade of ruby-red wine across a pristine white tablecloth, perilously close to Julian's expensive, bespoke suit. The server gasped, his face instantly draining of color, a look of sheer terror in his eyes. Julian, who had been mid-sentence, pontificating loudly to a group of junior executives about his latest, brilliant, strategy, stopped abruptly. His face contorted, not with concern for the trembling server, but with a look of utter disgust, as if he had just stepped in something unpleasant. "Are you utterly incompetent? Do you even know what a basic level of service entails?" he sneered at the young man, his voice rising, drawing unwanted attention. Then, his eyes sweeping past the server, landed on me, a convenient target for his misplaced rage. "You," he barked, pointing a manicured finger, perfectly groomed for corporate handshakes. "Clean this up. Now. And make sure it's spotless. This is a $5,000 linen, not a rag for your clumsy accidents." He didn't even acknowledge my presence as a person, just a tool to rectify an inconvenience. There was no, "Please," no, "Excuse me," just a command issued with a tone usually reserved for disobedient pets. I moved slowly, deliberately, retrieving my supplies from the cart. As I knelt, scrubbing at the rapidly setting stain, feeling the ache in my lower back, he continued his conversation, occasionally kicking his foot impatiently near my head, as if I were a particularly slow automaton whose progress needed prodding. Honestly, I overheard him say, a laugh in his voice that was utterly devoid of warmth, "The quality of staff these days is just appalling. You'd think for what we pay these contractors, they could at least send us people who know how to not make a mess, let alone clean one properly. It's an embarrassment." The other executives, eager to curry favor, chuckled dutifully, some even glancing down at me with a shared sense of amusement, as if I were part of the joke. I felt a cold knot tighten in my stomach. This was precisely what I feared. Serafina Vance was no better, perhaps even more insidious in her disdain, cloaked as it was in a thin veil of false sweetness. I found myself near a high-traffic area, trying to discreetly empty an overflowing waste bin, the pungent smell of discarded food and stale champagne clinging to the air. Serafina, draped in a shimmering emerald gown that caught every ambient light, swept past with a gaggle of admirers, all hanging on her every perfectly articulated word. Her voice, usually carefully modulated for public appearances, was sharp with impatience when she noticed the bin. "Evie, darling," she cooed, but the tone was mocking, not endearing, a saccharine coating over pure acid. She paused, tapping a perfectly manicured finger, adorned with a large diamond ring, on my shoulder, not even bothering to make eye contact. She was instead scanning the room for more important people. "Could you please make sure the ladies' room is absolutely pristine? I just heard some rather unpleasant gossip about the state of the facilities. We can't have our esteemed guests thinking we employ untidy staff, can we? It simply wouldn't do for our brand image." She leaned in slightly, a conspiratorial whisper that was loud enough for her entourage to hear. "And darling, try not to look so mournful. It's a celebration. Smile." She gave a brittle, artificial laugh, a sound like shattering glass, and her entourage joined in, their eyes flicking over me with amusement before they moved on, their laughter trailing behind them, leaving me standing there with the heavy, odorous bin. The echo of their amusement rang in my ears, a chilling reminder of how easily one's humanity could be dismissed. I felt a pang of genuine sorrow, not for myself, but for the company I had poured my life into, that it had nurtured such callousness, such superficial cruelty. I went to the lady's room and cleaned it, not because of her order, but because my standards, even in disguise, remained unwavering. I would not allow her disdain to compromise the integrity of the event. There were other incidents, small indignities that chipped away at my spirit, each one a microscopic wound. A discarded plate of half-eaten food, a greasy smear of sauce, shoved onto my cart with a dismissive wave by a young intern who didn't even break eye contact with her phone. Requests for drinks, coat checks, or even directions to the restrooms, all mistaken for a server or usher, despite my clearly distinct uniform. The most profound was the way people would talk over me, around me, or even through me, as if the sounds I made, the things I did, were not performed by a human being with thoughts, feelings, and a lifetime of experience. A group of young entrepreneurs once debated a complex financial model directly over my head while I was polishing a table, completely oblivious to my presence, using my hunched form as a convenient, invisible backdrop to their intellectual posturing. The uniform, I realized, was not just a disguise, it was a cloak of invisibility that stripped away one's very personhood in the eyes of others. It was a profound and unsettling lesson in the power of social perception, and the ease with which some people dehumanize others based on their perceived status. But then, a flicker of light pierced through the encroaching shadows, a small, yet powerful, ray of warmth. I was in a quieter alcove, carefully polishing a display case featuring some of Thorn Aerospace's pioneering achievements, the first satellite we launched, a miniature model of our iconic stealth jet, a framed photo of our first astronaut crew. My back was aching, the physical toll of the disguise and the continuous labor settling deep in my bones, and a sense of profound weariness had enveloped me. I felt a quiet despair starting to creep in, questioning if my experiment would yield anything but bitter disappointment. A young woman approached, not with an order or a dismissive glance, but with a hesitant, polite smile. She was dressed in a simple, elegant dress, clearly an intern or junior staff member, but carried herself with an air of quiet determination and innate grace. "Excuse me," she said, her voice soft but clear, cutting through the background hum of the gala. "I saw you earlier struggling with that heavy cart, and you've been working so hard all night. Could I perhaps offer you some water? You look a little tired." She held out a bottle of sparkling water, cool and refreshing, condensation beating on its surface. It was Alara Reyes, a cadet officer interning with our company's outreach program, a program I had personally championed. I had seen her name on a few reports, noted her promising record, her excellent grades, and her commitment to community service. I mumbled a thank you, my voice a little rusty from disuse, taking the bottle and feeling the cool relief against my palm. She didn't leave immediately, as most would have done. Instead, she leaned against the wall, observing the display case with genuine interest. "It's amazing, isn't it?" she said, her eyes shining with genuine admiration as she looked at a model of our first satellite, a testament to raw ambition and ingenuity. "To think, one person's vision could create all this. It makes you feel like anything is possible." She then turned back to me, her gaze warm and direct, a genuine connection in her eyes, seeing me. "You know," she continued, her voice thoughtful, "my grandmother used to tell me that the people who work hardest are often the ones no one sees. But they're the ones who keep everything running. Thank you for making this event possible for everyone tonight." Her words, simple and heartfelt, hit me with the force of a physical blow, a wave of emotion I hadn't expected. It was the first time all evening that someone had truly seen me, not the uniform, but the person behind it, acknowledging my effort and my humanity. It was a moment of pure, unadulterated human kindness, a stark contrast to the callousness I had endured. It was the affirmation I desperately needed. I managed a small, genuine smile, a gesture that felt alien on my disguised face, the muscles around my mouth unaccustomed to such genuine expression. "Thank you," I said, my voice a little hoarse with emotion. "That means a great deal." As she walked away, her steps light and purposeful, I watched her, a spark of hope igniting within me. Perhaps my company wasn't entirely lost. Perhaps the values I held so dear still found a home in the hearts of the next generation. The decisive turning point, the moment that solidified my resolve and told me my experiment was complete, came a little later. I was attempting to clear a table near the main stage, where Julian Albright and Serafina Vance were once again holding court, surrounded by a new circle of important-looking guests, potential investors and high-profile clients. Julian, emboldened by champagne and an admiring audience, was in full flow, telling a loud, boisterous story about a past business deal, his voice booming across the room. He punctuated his tale with a flourish, mimicking a clumsy server dropping a tray, complete with exaggerated gestures and a cartoonish expression of dismay. The group roared with laughter, Serafina's trilling laugh the loudest among them, a high-pitched, almost manic sound. My gaze, however, was drawn not to them, but to a figure standing a little apart, observing the scene with a quiet intensity that cut through the superficial merriment. It was General Marcus Vance, a highly decorated four-star general, a revered figure in the defense community, and a guest of honor at our gala. I knew, of course, that he was Serafina's estranged uncle, though I doubted she would advertise that fact, given their vastly different characters. General Vance was a man of immense integrity, a true leader who prioritized his people above all else, respected by all who served under him and with him. He had always been a quiet force for good, a man whose moral compass was unshakable. As Julian's laughter reached a peak, echoing through the grand hall, General Vance's eyes, sharp and piercing, locked onto Julian. It wasn't an angry stare, but one of profound disapproval, a silent judgment that cut through the merriment like a knife, chilling the very air around them. Julian's boisterous laughter, for a fleeting moment, faltered, then died away completely, replaced by an uncomfortable, almost suffocating silence. The general then shifted his gaze, slowly, deliberately, towards me. Our eyes met across the opulent room, a silent connection forged in shared values and a lifetime of understanding. He didn't smile, he didn't speak, but his expression softened almost imperceptibly, a subtle warmth replacing the sternness. Then, with a single, almost imperceptible nod, he acknowledged me. It was a gesture of profound respect, of understanding, of shared recognition. He saw through the uniform, through the disguise, and saw the person, the woman who had built the very institution hosting this event. He knew. He knew my purpose, he recognized my spirit, and he silently affirmed my resolve. I returned his nod, a subtle, knowing glance that conveyed a lifetime of shared experiences and unspoken truths, a silent pact between two individuals who understood the true meaning of leadership and character. In that moment, the entire evening crystallized. General Vance's silent acknowledgement was the validation I needed. My experiment was complete. I had seen the true colors of Julian Albright and Serafina Vance, their petty cruelty, their ingrained snobbery, their utter lack of empathy, their willingness to mock those they deemed beneath them. And I had seen the nascent integrity of Alara Reyes, a beacon of hope for the future, a testament to the enduring power of simple human kindness. The game was indeed nearing its end, and the consequences of their actions were about to unfold in a way none of them could possibly imagine. My conviction was solidified. The path forward, for my company and my foundation, was now undeniably clear. But every game has an end, right? And this particular game was about to reach its shattering crescendo. The gala was winding down, most of the guests beginning to disperse, their faces flushed with good wine and the glow of self-importance. Julian and Serafina were still lingering near the stage, basking in the last vestiges of attention, Julian animatedly discussing a potential deal with a minor client, Serafina giggling at his every word, clearly delighted to still be at the center of attention. I had been strategically positioning myself near the main stage, pushing my cleaning cart, a silent observer in my drab disguise, the weight of my impending revelation settling heavily and exhilaratingly in my chest. General Vance had departed a little earlier, but his silent acknowledgement still resonated within me, a quiet strength that fortified my resolve. The chairman of the board, a man I had personally appointed and trusted implicitly for over 2 decades, was about to give a brief closing speech, thanking the guests and reiterating the foundation's mission. I knew this was my moment. As he stepped up to the podium, a hush fell over the remaining crowd, a final polite courtesy. I glanced at Julian and Serafina. They were preening, adjusting their attire, anticipating a mention, perhaps, or at least the opportunity to network a little longer. They didn't even register my presence, a faint, elderly figure with a cleaning cart, just a few feet away. The chairman began, his voice calm and authoritative. "Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for a truly magnificent evening. As we conclude, I want to briefly touch upon the heart of Thorn Aerospace and Defense, our unwavering commitment to our values, to innovation, and to the people who make this company great." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the audience, then, almost imperceptibly, he made eye contact with me, a flicker of anticipation in his eyes. A small, knowing flicker passed between us, a silent signal that it was time. Then, I acted. With a deliberate, slow movement, I pushed my cleaning cart to the very edge of the stage, directly behind the chairman, placing myself in the direct line of sight of every remaining guest. I reached down, my hand steady, not for a cleaning spray, but for the ill-fitting wig on my head. I pulled it off, slowly, revealing my neatly coiffed, shimmering silver hair, styled in the elegant chignon that had been famously photographed on countless magazine covers, a hallmark of Commander Thorn. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Next, I unbuttoned the drab, oversized smock, the cheap fabric rustling softly as it fell to the floor, revealing a perfectly tailored, elegant navy blue pantsuit beneath, its silk lapels gleaming under the stage lights. The transformation was subtle, yet profound. The hunched posture straightened, the weary gaze sharpened, my entire demeanor shifting from invisible servant to commanding presence, the weight of decades of leadership returning to my shoulders. A ripple of confusion went through the room, quickly turning to murmurs. Whispers started, then grew louder, escalating into an excited buzz. People squinted, confused, trying to reconcile the figure they now saw with the elderly cleaning lady they had dismissed just moments before. Julian and Serafina, who had been chatting animatedly, suddenly went silent, their conversation dying on their lips. Their heads snapped towards the stage, their smiles frozen. Their eyes widened, first in utter confusion, then in dawning horror, as recognition began to set in. The chairman, seeing my signal, extended a hand towards me, a gesture of profound respect and welcome. "And now," he announced, his voice carrying through the stunned silence, amplified by the microphone, "it is my distinct honor to introduce the woman whose vision, integrity, and unwavering principles built this entire company, and whose foundation continues to inspire us all. Please welcome, our founder and chairwoman, Commander Evelyn Thorn." I stepped forward, onto the stage, my head held high, my gaze sweeping over the stunned faces in the crowd. The applause, initially hesitant and scattered, swelled into a thunderous, overwhelming ovation as the realization fully sank in for everyone. The cleaning lady. It was the Commander Thorn. I walked to the podium, the spotlight now firmly on me, my gaze lingering for a moment on Julian and Serafina. Their faces were ashen, drained of all color, their eyes wide with a mixture of shock, betrayal, and dawning dread. Julian's jaw hung slightly open, his usual arrogant smirk utterly wiped away, replaced by a ghastly pallor. Serafina's carefully constructed composure shattered, her face a mask of utter disbelief, her meticulously applied makeup suddenly seeming to crack. She looked like she had seen a ghost, and in a way, she had, the ghost of her own career, perhaps. I took the microphone, the familiar weight of it in my hand a comforting presence, grounding me in this extraordinary moment. "Thank you," I began, my voice clear and strong, cutting through the last vestiges of the stunned murmuring. "And thank you all for attending tonight. It has been a truly enlightening evening for me. I wanted to see, firsthand, the true spirit of this company, to understand if the values I instilled decades ago still resonated within these walls. I wanted to see if respect, empathy, and integrity were still at our core." My eyes found Julian and Serafina again, holding their terrified gaze, letting the full weight of my words sink into them. "And what I saw tonight has given me much to consider, much to reflect upon regarding our leadership, our future investments, and indeed, the very soul of Thorn Aerospace and Defense. The air in the room was thick with tension, with unspoken questions and the chilling realization of what was to come. The game was over. And for some, the consequences were only just beginning. The immediate fallout was, to put it mildly, spectacular. The gala ended not with polite goodbyes and plans for future networking, but with a palpable sense of unease, dread for some, and a glimmer of hopeful anticipation for others. The atmosphere was thick with speculation, hushed whispers, and the frantic tapping of phones as news of the bizarre reveal spread like wildfire. I held a private, emergency board meeting the very next morning, summoning key executives and the legal team. The details of that meeting, carefully controlled by my trusted chairman, quickly leaked, sending shockwaves through the entire organization, from the executive suites to the factory floor. Julian Albright was the first to face the consequences. When confronted with the detailed accounts of his behavior, my own unwavering testimony, corroborated by several discreetly placed security cameras that had captured his dismissive actions, and the quiet statements from the server he had terrorized, he stammered, blustered, and finally resorted to desperate, pathetic pleas. "Commander Thorn, I had no idea. It was just a misunderstanding, a joke. I was under pressure, I swear. You know how stressful these events can be," he whimpered, his usual arrogance completely evaporating, replaced by a desperate, sweaty fear. But his sycophantic charm, which had served him so well in climbing the corporate ladder, now fell flat, utterly devoid of effect. I looked at him, not with anger, for I felt my anger had been replaced by a quiet resolve, but with a profound sense of disappointment. "Mr. Albright," I said, my voice cold and steady, without a hint of wavering, "a true leader inspires respect, not fear or contempt. Your actions tonight, and the pattern of behavior they represent, demonstrate a fundamental lack of the values this company stands for. You treated a human being as if she were less than human, and for that, there is no place for you here." His termination was immediate, effective that very day. His professional reputation, carefully cultivated over decades through relentless self-promotion and ruthless ambition, was utterly destroyed. The industry grapevine, ever eager for scandal, chewed him up and spat him out. He lost not only his lucrative position but also the respect of his peers, the connections he so desperately craved, and any future prospects in the defense and aerospace sector. His world, built on superficiality and disdain, crumbled around him with a speed he could never have anticipated. I heard later that he struggled even to find mid-level management positions in obscure industries. Serafina Vance's downfall was equally swift and, for her, even more humiliating, given her pathological obsession with appearances and public image. When she attempted to bluster her way out, flashing her most charming, practiced smile and claiming I was overreacting, and that it was just a bit of fun between colleagues, I simply showed her a clip from the gala. This particular clip showed her openly ridiculing the help to her entourage, mimicking my stooped posture and slow movements, her laughter echoing with a cruel, dismissive tone. Her face, usually so composed, so carefully made up, went pale, her eyes darting frantically. "My dear Serafina," I said, my voice laced not with anger, but with a weary sadness, a sense of loss for the potential she had squandered, "your job as PR director was to uphold the image and values of this company, to project an image of integrity and innovation to the world. Instead, you actively undermine them with your every word and action. You embody the very classism and superficiality that I sought to eradicate from this organization. Your position is terminated, effective immediately. Furthermore, I will ensure that the details of your conduct tonight are made public, a stark warning to anyone who believes that unkindness and disdain are acceptable in the corporate world, especially from those tasked with shaping our public identity." She left my office in tears, her carefully constructed facade shattered, her career as a social climbing PR maven in ruins. Her reputation, once her most prized possession, was now synonymous with cruelty and hypocrisy, a scarlet letter in the industry. Her carefully curated social media presence, once a hub of glamorous events, went dark almost overnight. Then there was Alara Reyes. I summoned her to my office the following afternoon. She walked in, visibly nervous, clutching a folder of her internship reports as if it were a shield. She had no idea why she was there, likely fearing some minor infraction, or perhaps just an exit interview after her internship. I offered her a genuine, warm smile, hoping to put her at ease. "Alara," I began, my voice gentle, "please, sit down. I wanted to speak with you about your performance during the gala last night." Her eyes widened with apprehension, her fingers tightening around the folder. "Commander Thorne, I hope everything was satisfactory. I tried my best to assist where I could." I leaned forward, my voice softer still. "Alara, last night, I was working undercover as one of the cleaning staff. I was Evie. Her eyes, already wide with apprehension, grew impossibly larger, her jaw dropping slightly. Her carefully composed intern demeanor completely dissolved, replaced by a look of utter disbelief. You were the cleaning lady," she whispered, the words barely audible, her mind clearly struggling to reconcile the formidable Commander Thorne with the weary figure she had offered water to. "The one I offered water to? The one I spoke with about the satellite?" "The very same," I confirmed, a small, knowing smile touching my lips. "And I want you to know, Alara, that your simple act of kindness, your genuine respect for a person you believe to be merely the help, meant more to me than any grand gesture, any major business deal or philanthropic donation. It showed me that the heart of this company, the values I founded it on, are still alive in people like you. You saw a person, a human being, in need of a moment of compassion, and you offered it without hesitation, without thought of reward or recognition." Alara was speechless, tears welling in her eyes, her lower lip trembling. I just thought she looked tired, Commander," she managed, her voice thick with emotion. "It was just a bottle of water." "Precisely," I said, nodding, my gaze unwavering. "You saw a human being, not a uniform, not a status. That, Alara, is the mark of true leadership. It's the ability to connect, to empathize, to see the value in every individual, regardless of their role. That is the kind of leadership this company needs to thrive in the future." I then presented her with a formal document, emblazoned with the Thorne Aerospace and Defense logo. "Effective immediately, Alara, your internship is converted into a full-time position as my executive assistant, where you will shadow me and learn the intricacies of the company's operations. Furthermore, I am personally establishing the Evelyn Thorne Leadership Scholarship, in your name, which will provide full funding for your cadet officer training and any further education you desire, ensuring your path to excellence is unburdened by financial concerns. Upon completion, you will be offered a fast-tracked leadership role within the Thorne Aerospace and Defense Foundation, with a clear path to executive management within the main company. I want you to help me shape the future of this company, to instill the values of empathy and integrity into every level of our organization, from the boardrooms to the cleaning staff." Alara, overwhelmed, burst into tears, shaking her head in disbelief, her hands trembling as she reached for the document. "Commander Thorne, I don't know what to say. I can't believe it. This is incredible. I don't know how I could ever thank you." "Believe it, Alara," I said, reaching across my desk to gently squeeze her hand, my gaze meeting hers, filled with confidence in her potential. "Because you earned it. You earned it not by what you said, but by what you did when you thought no one important was watching. That, my dear, is the true measure of a person." The look of pure, unadulterated joy and gratitude on her face, mingled with a profound sense of purpose, was worth every single moment of discomfort, every dismissive glance I had endured. It was the purest reward I could have asked for, the undeniable proof that my life's work still had a heart. So what happened to them all? Julian Albright and Serafina Vance vanished from the corporate landscape as quickly as they had ascended, their names becoming cautionary tales, whispered in hushed tones in boardrooms across the industry. Julian struggled to find any meaningful employment, his reputation irrevocably stained. His network, once so vast, dissolved overnight, as no one wanted to be associated with someone who had so publicly demonstrated such a lack of character. Serafina's once vibrant social media presence went dark, her carefully crafted image shattered, her attempts to re-enter public life met with cold, unforgiving silence and the lingering stigma of her actions. Their fall from grace was complete and absolute, a stark reminder that true power isn't about the position you hold, but the character you display when you believe no one is watching. Elara Reyes, on the other hand, flourished. She embraced her new role with the same quiet determination and genuine kindness she had shown me that night. Under my mentorship, she quickly absorbed the complexities of the business, demonstrating an intuitive understanding of leadership that went beyond mere strategy. She became a driving force within the Thorn Foundation, her initiatives focusing on mentorship for underprivileged youth, inclusivity in STEM fields, and empowering individuals from disadvantaged backgrounds to pursue careers in aerospace and defense. Under her leadership, the Foundation's impact grew exponentially, touching countless lives and truly embodying the spirit of service I had always envisioned. She rose through the ranks, not through ruthless ambition or political maneuvering, but through competence, compassion, and an unwavering commitment to the company's true values. She was, and continues to be, a living testament to the idea that kindness is not a weakness, but a profound strength, a foundational pillar of true leadership. For me, the experiment brought a profound sense of peace, a quiet contentment that settled deep within my soul. The doubts that had plagued me for months were resolved. I had seen the worst of human nature, yes, the petty cruelties and the ingrained snobbery that can fester in institutions of power. But I had also witnessed its very best, in the quiet strength of Elara Reyes and the silent integrity of General Vance. I had cleansed my company of the corrosive elements that threatened its soul, ensuring that the legacy I had spent a lifetime building would be upheld by those who truly understood its purpose. I had elevated a deserving, compassionate individual to a position where she could truly make a difference, where her values would shape the future. My legacy, I felt, was secure, entrusted to capable and kind hands. The company underwent a significant cultural shift, recommitting to its foundational values, reminding everyone that respect, humility, and integrity were paramount, regardless of one's title or perceived status. It was a difficult, painful process for some, forcing them to confront their own biases, but a necessary one for the health and future of Thorn Aerospace and Defense, ensuring it would remain a beacon of innovation and human decency. And what did I learn from all of this? I learned that true character is not revealed in the grand pronouncements or the accolades showered upon us. It's not in the titles we hold or the wealth we accumulate. True character is revealed in how we treat those who can do nothing for us, the invisible figures, the people we believe have no power to influence our lives. It is in the small gestures of kindness, the moments of genuine respect, the ability to see the humanity in everyone, regardless of their uniform or their station. It is a lesson I had always believed in, a principle I had tried to live by, but one that, through my own undercover experiment, was affirmed with absolute, undeniable clarity. It was a costly test, perhaps, but one that yielded the most invaluable truth of all. I learned my lesson about human nature, a lesson that resonated deep within my soul. Our channel is full of stories like this, tales of deception, truth, and the surprising ways in which human character reveals itself. If you've been captivated by my journey, by the choices made and the destinies altered, then please, take a moment to subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss our next story. And now, I turn to you. Have you ever been surprised by someone's true colors? Have you witnessed a moment where an act of kindness, or cruelty, revealed the true nature of an individual? Tell me your story in the comments below. I read every single one.